Hi everybody. I can't be at this meeting this morning because I have another commitment, so I was asked to share some of my thoughts. And the idea for this meeting is that we will address how we will utilize the space at Windsor, especially as we seek to grow in the years ahead. So I have a couple of thoughts about this. I know that we want to do a couple of things, definitely. One is that we want to proclaim the gospel. Every faithful church wants to do this. And we also want to live the gospel. That means the culture of how we relate to one another, how people experience life with our fellowship, know the goodness of the righteousness of Christ and the forgiveness that God has for us, and the good things that He puts before us, the work that He gives us to do, to be a part of this. So in doing this, I think that we have the most potential for growth when we think about Sunday mornings and the membership of our church. And then it's also how we connect with one another in terms of all that God has given us at Windsor. So we really need to be on the same team, pulling in the same direction with the ministries that happen through the week here, with our schools, with Bible studies, and then other gatherings that we have through the week. So God has given us a lot, and that's a good thing. In order to continue to do this and to grow in how we're doing this, I think that what we need most is hospitable spaces. And what I mean by that is spaces that are welcoming, that are clean and beautiful. And to do that and to have these welcoming spaces, I think we should think about two groups specifically from our community. Those two groups are children and adults. So with children, I think that what we need, and I think this is the most immediate need, we need space where these children are safe and they enjoy being there. So more nursery space. If we have a space where infants can be dropped off and then the parents can leave and they can feel like that's a nice place, my children are safe, I know where they are. And then another space where children that are older, maybe 2 and 3 and 4 years old, can be in there and they can play and they can have enough room and they can play around, that they will have the ability to, that will help us to welcome families, young families, especially on Sunday morning. We're creating space, we're building for space so that our schools have more room. But that's an area where I think that we really need space to grow. The other is space where adults can connect. And so I'm thinking about two things with adults being able to connect here in our building. One is formally, so that we can gather for Bible studies and other kinds of meetings, whether it's a group or a one-on-one type of a thing. And then also informal space. So those kinds of spaces would be casual, places where you can connect and you can chat and catch up with someone, but it's not a formal thing. I have a few thoughts about all of this. One is, I think that we need to make it a priority to have less clutter. And what I think about with clutter is when I look around at the walls, especially before we just painted them, they're looking a lot better now since we painted them. I'm sitting in my office pointing at the lobby. That lobby area has had things added and put here and put there and built around. And it's not really a unified space. We want to welcome people as they enter the building, and it's just kind of cluttered. So I think we need less of that. The basement is sort of that way as well. I read a book a few years ago that says that whenever young families visit churches and they see lots of signs, it's a big deterrent to stay there. So whenever you say things like keep out, do not, keep off, they repel people. So I think we need to limit those types of signs and even just get rid of them. And then another thing, a few of us read an article by Kathy Keller, where one of the points that she made in how they were building a church and growing a church in Manhattan is that Kathy Keller said that excellence is inclusive. And what that means is sort of this feeling where when the walls were painted in the sanctuary, it feels updated and it feels cleaner. There's a feeling like it's more excellent. Like it's clean, and you can maybe feel comfortable in a space that is older and dirtier, especially if you've been there a long time. But when you're new, it's welcoming, and it's a place where you want to be if it's clean and it's done well. So the way we organize our building, the way we keep it up, I think that is a hospitable thing that we can do for those people. And one final thought. Because we want these families, because we have so many young children and their parents in our building, I think that we should plan and try to build things that are durable, because here's a proverb that I have for that. It's Proverbs chapter 14, verse 4. It says, "Where there are no oxen, the stable is clean, but from the strength of an ox comes abundant harvest." So we're given sort of two options with this. If you have an oxen, they make messes. You have to muck the stalls. You have to clean them up. You have to feed them, and then you have to clean after them. But it says, when you have an oxen in the stable, you're going to have an abundant harvest. So you're going to fill up your barns if you have an ox and the strength of the ox. The picture of that is having ministry, having people to come into our buildings, especially all these children. They will make a mess, and it will take our efforts to care for that. You know, backpacks scratch walls, and feet jump in puddles, and that's the way people are. The other option is we could have a clean, beautiful building where we don't have an abundant harvest, but it's clean. And really, it's sort of a silly proposition, because the reason that you have a farm, the reason that you have a church, is because you want to have a harvest. God gave us work to do. So these are some of my thoughts. I hope that helps, and I hope you have a good meeting this morning. Thanks a lot.